Hello there! You may or may not have seen the utter shit show that is happening around Stop Killing Games. I am not interested in exploring the personalities or the larger drama surrounding this initiative. What I would like to do is explain what this initiative is, what it's trying to achieve, some counter arguments, and why you should sign it. I'm going to be brief, as the more expansive explanation can be found on the website or on the Spearhead's channel Accursed Forums. Links will be in the description and pinned comment. If you want the short of it, I am very much pro Stop Killing Games. If you are in the EU, please sign it, as I did myself. So, what is Stop Killing Games? The initiative is meant to force companies to have an end-of-life plan when discontinuing online support for games. That does not include online functionality like multiplayer or file storage. Many modern games use a form of online anti-cheat or anti-piracy measures that force a game to always be online to prevent tampering. Yes, even single-player offline experiences need an online connection for this reason. That means, however, that if a company decides to shut down the servers for any reason, the game becomes unplayable or unbootable. The initiative is not advocating for perpetual online support. What it is advocating for is either patching or building from the ground up to be playable without these online services after the company decides to discontinue. It believes that the company still should have the right to discontinue the game whenever it wants and for whatever reason, yet it does not allow to take away the games the customers have bought. For single player games, that just means removing the checks to the server. For multiplayer games, there are more steps necessary, because these games can only be experienced with other players. There needs to be a release of the netcode or server binaries to allow people to host their own servers. This is very feasible and has been done many times over the years, from small scale examples like a lot of more tech-savvy people making their own Minecraft servers or Gmod servers, to the larger scale like people hosting full MMO servers like the famous Nostarius World of Warcraft private server. Of course, it is not expected for games to retain 100% functionality when being patched like this. Some stuff is too dependent on servers, like achievements or storage of user-generated content. What is acceptable should most likely be seen on a case-by-case basis. This also includes free-to-play games, as it is unreasonable to expect players to be fine with losing all the access to their microtransaction purchases. This does not include completely 100% free games that have no paying whatsoever. This is not about giving IP rights or about forcing to extend licenses. This is purely to allow players to retain what they have purchased. Of course, this initiative does not work retroactively, and games made before this goes through will not have to abide by these rules, as it would be unreasonable to ask developers to uproot possibly very vital infrastructure in their games. This initiative wants you to retain the product you paid for, without the company having the right to take it away from you without at least giving you a refund if they take it away. Or to be very clear that your game is a rental at purchase, so there cannot be any misunderstandings. A hidden paragraph in the end user agreement is not sufficient. Double so, most of those can only be read after the purchase. I mean, literally on the store page you have to say it's a rental or have an end of life plan. That is the initiative in a nutshell. For more info, go to the links in the description or pinned comment. Now, let's discuss some of the counters to this. The warranty argument. This one I saw a lot offline, so I would like to disprove it. It goes something like this. You bought a car and the warranty expires, or the company discontinues the car. So now you have the right for a new car, for free. That's what this initiative wants. Not at all. That is not what we are asking, and that is not what is happening. It is more like the company being able to take away or destroy your car after they discontinue it, even though you bought it. What we are asking is that even after the warranty expires or the company doesn't produce the car anymore, that you can still keep the car you paid for. Software in most cases doesn't rot, it doesn't fall apart with age or stops functioning correctly. Of course, there are many cases where old games have a hard time running because they were not made with modern hardware, software or drivers in mind. We are not asking companies to support the games into the future. We just want to keep the game we paid for, and if it doesn't work on our new computer, then that is our issue, not the company's. But the company shouldn't have the right to take away that game because they think you cannot play it anymore. Command and conquer. A point that has been made by some individuals was that it is possible to attack the game and to shut down. Like, for instance, the whole Team Fortress 2 fiasco, where there was a flood of bots that tried to destroy it. Then, after it gets destroyed, get the code through this initiative, and then set up your own paid or predatory servers when the game is discontinued. I am not saying it's impossible to do that, but companies have legal channels to shut those down. This will not need any more legal shenanigans. All the tools and regulation exist for companies to fight predatory users of their code. Plenty of examples from Riot to Blizzard using these channels. The experience will never be the same for multiplayer games. It is true that when playing a game when it's in its online peak versus private servers will never be the same. But again, that is not what we want or advocate for. Games are an art form and should be preserved in however that is possible. For instance, the true experience of an old church or a place of worship was when they were full of people lost in prayer or giving sermons. But that doesn't mean we should bulldoze them because they do not offer the experience anymore. Same thing with old warplanes or ships. Letting people just have a taste of what once was is more than enough, and it's important that we preserve history of this medium. The art form is better when it can learn from its predecessor, even if it's just a museum piece. Licensing problems. Some games shut down because licensing has expired, most of them from music. It is true that for legal reasons, the game has to be taken off the store page, and that is completely fine. The only thing that should not happen is the game being taken away from players that have already bought it. You never owned your games. All marketing and visualization says I bought the game. If the game is truly just a rental, then that should be legally plastered on every place you can buy it, from CD to online store page. Otherwise it is fraud, and any company should be allowed to be taken to court for this. If that is still not the case, then piracy should be a fully legalized aspect of gaming. The phrase, if buying isn't owning, piracy isn't stealing, comes to mind, and you might say it's misguided because you are not buying but renting. If I can only rent, then piracy still provides a service that the company refuses to give. I want to buy the game and own it, much like I can rent a house or buy it for a lot more money. I am not allowed to buy the game, only rent. Therefore, the only way for me to get what I am interested in is piracy. And yes, I am a game developer. My game will be released on Steam, which means the game is only available as long as Steam servers are active. If you agree with my stance on piracy, then you have my full blessing to pirate my game and any other game I release in this way. This will kill live service games. No. This initiative only pertains to the end of life of any game. None of what I described in the first section applies to when the game is still supported. Only when the game stops being live servers and the company pulls the plug does this go into effect. Games that are based around user-generated content can't work with this. There are games that rely on user-generated content. Think of something like Little Big Planet, where you play levels from other players. Of course, when the game gets shut down, it is not reasonable to expect the company to accept new user-generated content and or store old content. Players jumping in late should still be able to play legacy content or share user-generated content through their own servers or storages. A lot of this already exists. This is how I experienced Little Big Planet. Games cannot be changed that much now. I agree that a lot of games are built from the ground up to make this impossible. For the ones that have this issue, the initiative is fine with letting them go. The point is to make games in the future that are built from the ground up with this in mind. It is sad that we have to let the games already out go, but we have to be reasonable to the companies and the developers as well. Is it really necessary to get the government involved? Now, this is a very valid question and something we should always consider signing things like this. The government having say in companies is very shaky ground and should be used with caution. However, it should be noted that companies will never change if they do not have an incentive or are forced to. Because removing games does more financial good to companies than not, because it forces players into their newer releases. They have no incentive to change. Much like Apple having no incentive to change their cables, because it meant more people gave specifically them money to buy specifically their cables. It took government regulation to make them concede. Consumer protection like this can almost only be enforced by governments. Does this not restrict developers from making online-only games? Honestly, as a developer myself, fuck them. Yeah, if you cannot make a game that supports this, why do you even start? I care deeply about games. It is my favorite art form and I would not be the same person that I am today without them. If you have tens of millions of dollars and you cannot make a game that supports this, then what the fuck are you even making? If you are a small indie dev, then you do not even have the resources to make crazy shit that would make porting to offline difficult. Please keep in mind that we are not asking for developers to make some crazy auto server setup machine. We are asking them to give the community the necessary tools for the community to figure it out for themselves. Hell, most other projects that allow you to relive these games have been made solely through speculation and trial and error from extremely dedicated, talented and passionate fans. Releasing server binaries and making the game playable with and without a server isn't that big of a task. I say this not only as a hobbyist but also as a software engineer with a degree. This is only hard when you make it so for yourself. And if you build software with this in mind from the ground up, we, as software engineers, make our lives a lot easier for ourselves. If you have more criticisms or questions, I would happily answer them. I would also gladly forward you to the video from Accursed Farm and the FAQ on the Stop Killing Games page, as they go far more in depth than I did here. Please, if you are in the EU, sign this petition. The links are in the description and pinned comment. Big players have a habit of following each other, so if this goes through in the EU, then it most likely will go through in the rest of the world. Even if the petition has reached its signature goal, please still sign it, as some signatures might get lost during the authentication process. Again, for the last time, please sign it, and thank you for at least listening.